Hello and a very good afternoon to you. You're watching News 9 Digital. I'm Pratibha. We've been fighting this pandemic for a few months now, and we are now much better prepared than we were just a few months ago. Now we have more information about the virus, we take much more precautions, and of course our healthcare systems are also better equipped to deal with the situation. But can we really afford to have another pandemic? Will we be able to handle it? What is the effect that it will have on the world economy, on the healthcare system? Well, that's the fear that several experts have expressed. Now they were looking at coronavirus being present in swines. It's called the swine acute diarrhea syndrome coronavirus. And researchers now believe that this virus can go to humans as well. This was a virus that first went to swines from bats, quite similar to what happened with coronavirus as well. And researchers now fear that this could also now go to humans from swines. This is quite worrying because our healthcare systems are already overburdened. We've seen enough tragedy as well due to COVID-19 across the world. And at a time like this, we cannot afford to have another pandemic. But is that really a big worry? Should we all be wary of it? And what are the precautions we can take against it? To discuss more on this, Professor Utpal Tatu from IISc, who's an infectious diseases expert, joins us live. Many thanks for joining us. Professor, if you can tell us how big of a worry is this, because it's very similar to what happened with coronavirus. This is something that you've spoken of before as well, that we need to discuss how COVID-19 even began. So this is another virus that researchers and scientists across the world are looking at, the possibility of it coming from swines to humans as well. What is the kind of worry that we should have, Professor?
Thank you, Ms. Pratibha. I think you've touched upon a very important point, and very happy that you're reminding the people at large that the corona and COVID-19 has emanated from bats, has been transmitted from bats to humans. And then, as you all know, and I'm sure you know this, that many other viruses have been transmitted from animal systems to humans in the last several years, be it Ebola or Zika and swine influenza, avian influenza, and all of these examples. And now we are talking about yet another form of coronavirus where there is a fear that diarrhea, it's causing diarrhea in swine. So yes, indeed, I think it's been a common theme in the last decade that viruses have jumped species barriers and have moved from animals to humans and vice versa. In COVID-19 itself, I think there is awareness that, there are mink farms in Netherlands where the virus has jumped from humans to minks and vice versa. So yes, there is a lot of exchange happening between animals and humans as far as infectious viruses are concerned. And currently we are dealing with COVID. Here are the scientific facts. The virus COVID-19 is more than 90% similar to the coronavirus which existed and which were infecting animals even before COVID-19 happened. And as you know, our team has been doing research on coronaviruses even before COVID-19 outbreak happened. So we must be aware that coronaviruses have not suddenly appeared, they have been around. And the virus that is now causing havoc in human beings is more than 90% similar to the viruses which have infected animals. Having said that, up until now, the reports of exchange, especially COVID-19 being transmitted into animals, have been far and few. There have been reports from United States of America that, as you may recall, Bronx Zoo, there was the first example where COVID-19 was shown to be present in animals. And then again, there are many examples, some of which I mentioned before. But there have been systematic studies in the last few months where animals were randomly tested in the United States of America for COVID-19. And thank God, I mean, what a big relief to know that there were not many examples when they did a larger random study of animals for COVID-19 presence. Not to say that this is not going to happen. So two facts I want to leave you with. One is the virus is genotypically very similar to COVID-19. And number two, even though we don't have definitive scientific evidence of large-scale spread of COVID-19 into animals, it remains a distinct possibility. community.
Okay.
And as a result, caution must be exercised at every level, especially in places where animals are present in large numbers, especially in farms and so on. I think any symptoms that appear in animals need to be treated with caution.
Okay.
I would like to emphasize that there is no need to panic. There isn't currently any hard evidence, hard scientific evidence to say that the COVID-19 has spread in pets or in cattle or in large animals. No,
Right. So
we
it's a
do not have
legitimate worry,
scientific
but we
evidence.
don't need to worry much because there's a very slight possibility of that happening. But the virus's potential threat to people has already been demonstrated in lab tests as well, which is why it could be a little worrying or something we should be wary of. So, looking at what has happened with COVID-19, would you say that we should take precautions? And if yes, what are the precautions that we can take?
Look, I think one should always take precautions. I mean, COVID-19 or not, when there is a sick animal, we need to take precautions. And that's really what I have always been advising, that animal infections have always been a potential threat to humans.
Okay.
So this is an example, of course, and there's a glaring example, in fact, for the whole the globe. But anytime there is a compromise in the health of an animal, we need to actually address it. Okay. And now it's very much more, I think, it's staring at our face that currently when you see a sick animal, even if it's a stray animal, you really need to pay attention. Okay. We really need to look after it. We need to make diagnosis and we need to give treatment. So I think what you're saying is absolutely right. Whether or not, regardless of whether it is COVID-19 or not, we really need to be more careful and more aware of infections in animals. Okay. Because today it's COVID-19, tomorrow it could be something else. Right. Pandemics, infectious disease outbreaks may continue. So I would make a very general, actually, suggestion of being more aware of infections in animals and doing the right thing, just as we do for humans. We really need to look after animal health in a much more much more sort of emphatic manner. Okay.
Okay. Also, lastly, Professor, looking at how we have dealt with the coronavirus situation across the world as well, would you say that now we are much better prepared to deal with the pandemic like this, or would you say now we are already overburdened because we fought coronavirus? So, any threat, like you said, we should be looking at it, dissecting it and ensuring that it does not spread to the proportion that COVID-19 has, because we can't really afford it at this time.
No, absolutely. I would completely agree with the first part of your statement. In fact, we are better prepared. Okay. I think this has happened after in our age and time. This has been the biggest infection that humanity has seen in the last several decades. People of my generation, I've heard about outbreaks all over the world, but the youngsters have never. They've only seen science fictions and read science fiction. But what we are seeing today is a reality. And as a result, people have become sensitive about it. They know that this can happen. Okay. And as a result, I think, what a wonderful job that governments have done all over the world. What a wonderful job WHO has done. What a wonderful job our own Indian Council for Medical Research has done in sensitizing people and putting together mechanisms in a very short manner to address this problem. And this is not a small task at all, as if you can imagine, even in a country of our size of more than 1.2 billion people, in a matter of a week or two, our government put together a mechanism to do widespread testing and then isolation. And I think it's very difficult in a country like ours to do that, but we have pulled it off to some extent. Right. There will always be some, issues associated with it. We can never do a perfect job, but yes, I would completely agree with you that we are more prepared. Okay. With the COVID-19 example, we are much better prepared. And next time around, we will do much better job at controlling the spread of infection.
Absolutely. So if at all there has been anything lacking in our fight against COVID-19, then we'll be better prepared for the next one. Professor Utpal Tatu, many thanks for joining us live with your expertise on the subject. So, of course, this was a fear that a few researchers have put forward, but even as we may assure ourselves that we are much better prepared, it's best that we don't have to face a situation like that. This is a fear that researchers have already expressed, but beyond that as well, we need to ensure that we are absolutely safe, and this is the reason why we need to also ensure that we maintain proper hygiene as well as taking other precautions that we have been all this while. Well, that's all I have for you today. Thank you so much for joining me live. I'll see you in the next video. Take care.